So number one is every gate on planet Earth has been tried. There's not one gate that we haven't tried. Narrow, medium wide, extra wide, whatever it is. They've all been tried. Two-handed gates have been tried and one-handed gates. I don't have to talk you into a two-handed gate. It's a better gate, in my opinion, because you don't have another thing to do. You don't have one hand to let go of. So you get to start with both hands on. Now there's some rules to that though. Number one is, we're going to start with, especially on the gate, you need to start with straight knees, straight hips, straight elbows, and low hands. Okay, not bent knees, bent hips, bent elbows, and high hands, and or low hands. Straight knees, straight hips, straight elbows, low hands. Even though you can find examples of people who can do it multiple ways, that's your most consistent variation. That's what Will Asher does, Chris Parrish does, now Regina does, Nate Smith does. Quite a few people do it that way, and there's a reason, because it's been tried many other ways. Once you get to the outside on your gate, you want to square up. What we call square is when the zipper on the front of your vest is pointed straight down the leg. Not rolled to the inside, not rolled to the outside. That's your probability of the tightest line and the best connection to the driver and the boat as you turn in. Rolled in will kill your line, rolled away will over-tighten the line and cause you to go to your back foot. If you point in, you've already killed it off. So if you point in, if you point out, you've got more degrees to do. Square.
I didn't square up at 3, but I still let my arms out and almost
If you'd have gone square
recovered.
at 4, you had it.
Did I?
If you'd have gone square at 4, okay? All right, so once you do turn in from this square position, from zipper down the leg, you want the pressure of the line, if possible, to be in your left hand, so that the connection between you and the driver doesn't tempt you to drop into the right shoulder prematurely or fall towards the wake. Generates a lot of speed. It's hard to get rid of that speed. So left hand, square to the boat, turn, connect to the driver. Okay, you're connecting to the boat. You're connecting to the cruise control. Once you're connected, then you can smoothly drop your elbows straight again, which they should be pretty low already. Drop your elbows straight, shoulder on the outside. Outside means of the centrifugal arc. That means on the outside of the line is the handle. On the outside of the handle are your hands. On the outside of your hands are your arms. On the outside of your arms, I want your right shoulder going into one. Now the right shoulder should be on the outside off of a structured body, meaning the alignment from your shoulder down through your hips and legs should be one straight line. The alignment from your shoulder out through your hand should be one straight line. Okay? When those two lines are parallel, you're stacked. You are anatomically stacked. If stacking, meaning skeletal alignment, doesn't work, then muscles have to be applied. So the muscles of the rear end, the muscles of the lower back, even if necessary, have to be applied, because bending forward is your enemy at that point. Bending forward causes a collapse of the knees and causes a roll towards the boat with the shoulders. Both of those are speed generating because the boat views them as a gas-giving possibility. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So the structural alignment is actually a limiter to the throttle, because it doesn't have another move. It doesn't have a next move. It doesn't have a way to get more. Now, there's a good news and bad news, because structural alignment never puts you in a position to get ahead. In other words, you don't have a way of generating more speed. You don't have a way of getting faster. The bad news is if you let it up early, it's not going to be enough, because you haven't generated excess on one side of the way. Okay, so what you have to do is maintain it long enough from the pull of the boat to give you the productivity that you used to get off of speed on one side. Right. Make sense? People say, do you pull long? So Chet's telling you to pull long? No. He's telling you to be pulled long. Because even as you approach the wake and start coming up with your shoulder on the outside, the boat keeps pulling on you all the way out to the buoy line. So for the first time in history, we can now use the boat based on the modernization of cruise control, where it's fast and it's reactive and it stays with us. We can use the boat over a longer distance. So we get both the benefit of acceleration, which if you stay in an aligned position is perfect acceleration, because it's the acceleration provided by the boat. But coming up the second wake with your shoulder on the outside is perfect deceleration, because it's off of the pull of the boat. So you no longer have to manage your own speed. You're no longer required to figure out how to pre-turn. You don't need to figure out how to change edges. You don't need to figure out how to get ready for the ball. You have to ride it out to the buoy line like a gate and transfer the energy. Now, once you get out the buoy line, same as the gate, you got to be square. Zipper has to be pointed down the lake. So what we should be aspiring to is the positional alignment, the balance that any frame of any motor drive shot would be applicable to the cover of a magazine. Now that's a little bit unrealistic, but it's the ambition, it's the goal. The reason a high-end skier looks so still is because they are. Now, being still is a measure of confidence. So when you lock in, when you come in square and you move into alignment and you lock into a position, being still is the representation of your courage, or the representation of your belief that the behavior you're exhibiting is correct. Now, from a coach's standpoint, if you're not still, I always wonder which one of those gyrations or movements you expected me to coach. Because one of them was probably correct. One of them you probably hit for a nanosecond. But as you continue to move and gyrate, which one of those would you like me to coach? Because none of them are really coachable, because none of them were held long enough to be coached. So when you come out of the buoy, the best way to give whoever's coaching you a view of what you really do, don't move. Lock down on what you believe. So my favorite definition of the word faith, I've looked it up in Webster's, I didn't love the definition. And it says, faith is the confident assurance that what you hope for will come true. I love the definition, because what it means is that if you really believe in something, you should believe that there's an outcome. There's something that should come from that. There's a dividend. So we go into a low-risk environment holding what we got, but we get a high dividend yield because we get the benefit of the boat over the longer duration, both entering the wake, entering the pull, and exiting the pull. So the big main ones are, make sure you got fairly solid. It doesn't matter if your knees are locked. I'm going to say it, as a coach, I'm going to say it because I need the exaggeration. But it really means strong knees, strong hips. Straight elbows is a mandate, and low hands. But if you don't have locked knees, don't move. Solidify what you do have. Stay still. Keep your shoulder on the outside, so then we use the gates as a reference point. We say the right-hand gate, would you like to have your shoulder inside, over top, or outside? Anybody who aspires to a shorter line would say outside. Everybody I've ever asked says outside. That's everybody from Karen, Truelove, and Regina to the beginner. They all immediately think, well, if I'm going to run a short line, I'll have to have it on the outside. Now, there are no gates between the rest of the buoys. So you have to imagine that same alignment over that same duration. You just don't have a visual representation in the form of an orange buoy. So those are your biggies. Straight knees, straight hips, straight elbows, low hands is the way I'll coach it, even if it doesn't mandate the straight knees exactly. I want shoulder on the outside. I would like head-based alignment, meaning that when your head's lined up, we all know the temptation to tip. I have a little bit of that myself. We have the temptation to look back at the boat. We've actually been encouraged to do both. Sometimes in the old days they'd say, don't look at the buoy, look away. So everybody looked at the beach. And then everybody said, okay, look back at the boat and open up to the boat. Everybody looked at the boat. But really in between those two is the best world. Because what you don't want is a one-lane highway. If I'm looking back here, all I can see is about 10 feet behind the ball to 20 feet behind the ball. And if I look over here, I can't see but 10 from the boat to about 10 feet in front of the boat. In between, I have an 18-lane highway. All possible paths, and in the middle of that is the buoy, which happens to be my final resting place. It's the place I'm going to end this motion. Now that's the last part, and I don't go into this with the students a lot, since this is your video for the summer. One of the most modern concepts, and I don't mean modern as in age, but in technical advancement, is that there is an actual ending to every swing. That's the desired. So when you pull out for your gate, you expect a finale. There's a final point. Freddy Krueger said, isn't it an amazing phenomenon that in wakeboard and slalom and jump, that you can pull out wide on a boat that's running at a constant rate of speed and start to slow down almost to the point of stalling without losing position on the boat. That's an amazing phenomenon, and that's possible at the buoys too. So the whole idea of carrying speed at the buoys, it's wonderful. It means don't drift back. It doesn't mean don't slow down. It means get outside the buoy. Now, the part of this that makes it all really nice, and the part that's real modern is, in the old days, because we did go really hard on one side of the wake, we would let up, change edges, and we always came in behind the buoy. And like I told Sasha yesterday, if the buoy was 2 meters in diameter, it was huge, nobody would like it. Everybody's saying, oh, Chet, your buoys suck. You got big buoys. Why do you have the big buoys? They have little ones now. And that would be true. It'd be a better buoy to have a smaller one. But in reality, it shouldn't matter much. Because if we're letting up and changing edges and coming in behind the buoy, then we're forced to get outside near the buoy and go around. We have to go around the 2 meter diameter buoy. But if we're already outside the buoy, we don't have to go around anything. We just cut in front of it, like a gate. So if there was a 2 meter diameter buoy at the gate, it wouldn't matter. You'd be outside of it and you'd cut in front of it. Same with the ball. So really the advancement of modern slalom is knowing how to align. That's been around, I've been teaching that since 50 years, 40 years. That's old. the modern advancement is to be outside the buoy is better than be behind the buoy. So if you think about it, we always thought being behind the buoy was good. In fact, it led credence to the people who were taller because they could stretch farther than everybody else. It led credence to the people who were stronger because they could bear down on the back of the buoy when the load came. The two best skiers in the world right now, one's a skinny kid from Indiana who eats hot dogs and drinks Mountain Dew, and the other's a 5'4" girl who beats me all the time, by the way, and I'm not happy about it. But it shows that it's no longer the game of power or size. It can't be, because the best two in the world don't possess either one. So what it really is, a game outside the buoy, be square. Once you're square, get into a good alignment so you can get back outside the buoy.
And the alternative of being square is?
Pushed away or pushed in.
Okay.
Pushed in is deadly because pushed in kills the line. Pushed away was what counter rotation thought. Pushed away was an attempt to not be pushed in because everybody had already changed edges. So they had already gone to the inside, and now they know they've put into a deficit, so they tried to keep the deficit at bay. But you don't have to do any of that. Water. But the truth is, I know Jamie good enough and I know what he worked on. He said, look, I try to point that ski across the lake until I'm outside the buoy, and then I come up over my feet. I like my feet better than not being over my feet. Then I try to point it the other way until I get outside the buoy and over my feet. Pretty much quote. He said everything else is fluff. The rest is junk. Because the game of slalom requires one element that is mandatory. If I said to you, Allison, would you like some air to breathe? You'd say, like or need, Chet? Because I would like some, but I need it. Because without it, you will perish. Angle in slalom is need. It's not like, it's not desire. If you don't have it, you'll perish. Or you will never run short lines, or you will never run faster speeds. It's a mandate. Being perpendicular to the 3,000-pound boat is how we utilize the boat. It's what makes it pull us. It's not how fast we can get from side to side. In fact, the last part of your video, it should actually, if you're skiing really good, it should take longer to get from buoy to buoy than you think it should. It should take longer than you wish it did. If it takes enough time, then they are being pulled by the boat the whole time. If you outrun the boat can't pull on you because you pass it. So yesterday, it's funny, or this week at being in Texas doing the clinic, there was a guy there and he didn't know squat about jumping, you could tell. So I asked him, I said, when a jumper comes off the ramp, what do you think gets him down the lake? What do you think makes him jump far? He said, stored energy. He's an engineer. I said, really? You think so? You think when he comes off the top of the ramp, he loses the pull of the boat and he just pops and flies? He said, well, no. I said, as soon as he passes the boat, he loses all possibility of continuation. As long as he's being pulled by the boat on the ramp and into the air, he can keep going down the lake. In fact, when they cheap jump, they turn away so they pull him longer. They get an extra 5 or 10 feet from the boat continuing to pull on. The minute you lose the boat, you don't go anywhere. If you came off the top of the ramp and lost the pull of the boat, you pop.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Same in slalom, same in wakeboard. Yeah. If Sasha wants to do an air Raley, the one thing she doesn't want to lose in the air is the pull of the boat. Every person I've ever coached to do an air Raley, they get up. Most of them can't get down. Horrific crashes. Because they don't realize that the pull of the boat is mandatory on the way up and on the way down. Yes? Same in slalom. There's never a point where the pull of the boat is not mandatory. Regina has made a science out of it. Nate is the best in the world because of it. Now, if they were coming off the second wake, losing the pull of the boat, and Chad Scott said it very eloquently, he said, first time he'd ever driven Nate more than a few times, he said, do you know you can feel that kid slowing down all the way into the ball? Now, how on earth could you feel that kid slowing down all the way into the ball if he was disconnected? Now, in my lifetime, I've driven the boat a long time, since I'm 5 years old. I don't think I ever, until recent history, felt anybody slowing down into the ball. Now I feel Jack slowing down, I feel Sasha slowing down, I feel Angie slowing down, I feel Scott slowing down, I feel Renee slowing down, I feel Mai slowing down, I feel you slowing down, and I know you feel me slowing down when I do it well, not because we're Nate Smith, but because we're learning how to ride the pull of the boat both into our lane and out of our lane. That's why the shoulder has to stay on the outside. So, there's your video lesson for the summer. There's your $80, sorry. The hard part for Brooke and with Sasha isn't the physical part of it, it's learning how to use the thing attached to the end of the line to get the result they want, because the physicality is all there. They have the strength, they have the endurance, they have the wherewithal, they can stand up and do a backflip on the beach, which I couldn't. But they don't know how to ride the line as good as I do. So I'm better at riding the machine. And at the end of the day, the machine's the key to the game. So once you know that, once everybody here realizes that all their athleticism, all their smarts, all their good training, all their desires pale in comparison to the real athlete, which is that 3,000-pound boat. And if you learn to tap into him, all we really are is a bunch of young people learning to fly a drone from behind the line. That's what we're really doing. We're flying a drone left and right, outside. Our behaviors dictate how that drone flies. And when that drone flies on our behalf, it works for us. When it goes against us, the drone flies against us, and that's a 3,000-pound drone. That ain't no little drone. So that's what we're really doing. We're flying the machine from behind the boat. We're riding a line. Remember the old Paul Bunyan where he lassoed the tornado and rode the big whatever it was? Remember the gig? Surfing is lassoing a tornado. Tornado of water comes in and you step onto liquid and you drop into this tornado torrent of water. You have no power over it. You are helpless to it. It will crush you, eat you, and can drown you. But there is not much better on planet Earth, I can attest to, than riding that freaking tornado down the length of the beach with it curling and gnarling and growling behind you, and you just manipulating up and down and back and forth on it. It's as good as it gets. Just like I think stepping onto liquid and having that 3,000-pound tornado pull you around behind the boat is about as good as it gets. I mean, I've been to Disney. They don't have anything like that. It's not as good. You can go on the airboat ride today. It's not as good. So when we learn to ride that thing and we manipulate the things we can do while we ride that, but the minute you think you're the athlete, you start trying to bear down your knees and bear down your hips. Chris LaPointe told me something that would fascinate you guys. So Chris LaPointe, I drove 8 hours one time to watch him ski. I drove 8 hours. I didn't ski. I drove to watch him and his brother ski. They were the best there was. I wanted to learn. So I drove to this tournament and watched and studied and learned. I was about 17. He won the world championship or the U.S. Open, whatever it was, with 3 at 32. He told me that.
And now people start there.
Now people start there. So we've come a long way since the old days. Chris said, Bob and I were great big guys, right? He said, I'm about 6'4" when I was young. He said, I was strong. I got real strong. He said, I could cut across the wake, drop my butt, come to the buoy, lose the line, slam it in, grab hold, take the hit, and keep going. He said most of the little guys couldn't do it.
That was my technique.
Yes, exactly. But look at where we've come. Plus,